Hi everyone, another quick blog. Earlier on, or in the previous blog, I talked about sort of bait, how I use my bait and the quantities I use it in. Another question I often get asked is about rigs, hook size, lead arrangements, things like that. So that's what I wanted to talk to you now. 99.9% of my fishing, well 99% of my fishing is done with a helicopter setup. I don't use a bait boat at all, and I very rarely row baits out for myself. So for me, from an anti-tangle property and just from my personal preference, is a helicopter setup, which is that one there. This one looks obviously slightly different to your average setup, and that's because this is the atomic chopper dropper system, one of the few that we recommend. I obviously use this, one because I'm associated with atomic, and two, I would use it anyway. Main reason for that is just a fish safety point of view, and the fact that I can tweak it to not drop the lead quite as easily, or make it super easy depending on the situation that I'm in. Here where I'm fishing with the helicopter, there's not a huge amount of snags, but there's a possibility that it could pick up a bit of bramble if it kited. So super easy to set up. We sell them in the shop, so I can always show you how to set them up, but once you've done it once, you know, it's pinch of piss. So basically the way you can adjust it is via this bead here, on the downward section. Obviously you need some sort of stopper on this side. I use the Godman PVA Solutize. So that's dissolved, that's been in the water, that little nugget, and you've got your loop coming through here. When the lead is pulled, first of all it hits the bead, then it starts to move the bead if it's under any tension, and that will come out. So you've now got the whole lead sinking against the bead. As the fish gets tethered or stuck in weed, literally, I won't pull it too hard because my bead will drop off, literally the lead will just slowly pull the bead off the end, the whole lot's gone, and the fish is just left with the leader. In this case it's one of the Strategy heavy leadless leaders. If for whatever reason they couldn't eject the lead, I'm not sure what it would be, but you know, if it all got snarled up in heavy weed or something and they couldn't put tension on the lead, you've got the additional safety of this mega wide bore bead. So you know, the swivel's sitting on the stem as is instructed in the pack, and just with a tiny little pop it's off the stem, swivel, bead is gone. So the whole leader is ejected one way or another, and for me it's the safest, sort of most adjustable helicopter lead release system. It's been around a while, but that certainly doesn't mean that it's been bettered. I don't think it has. Just more adjustable and as safe as I can find a lead system. So that's my helicopter setup, and I'll use that. The rig that I'll use 9 times out of 10 on that helicopter setup is the good old Johnny Mac rig, or the multi rig. Not much left to say about this rig, and I know I've talked about it before. Just a couple of things I do slightly different, and that I've probably changed since the last video I did. I now use a sabre all the time instead of a chodder or any outturned eye pattern. I like the sort of slightly aggressive angle. It kind of is sort of like a miniature version of the wivvy pull, the way I set it up. Not quite as aggressive, but you'll get what I mean. I use a liner, one to make that top section even stiffer than the double over loop, which sort of gives you that stiff hinge type property. Two, it obviously pins the loop down to stop it pulling on a heavy cast, especially with the diameter of the 25-pound jelly wire. And now I've gone back to using a rig ring or a micro ring on the D as opposed to a mini rig swivel, purely because after a bit of research and different bites and stuff, I just definitely get better hook holds with the ring over the swivel. I won't go into a huge amount of detail, but personally think that the ring having less movement, allowing the hook bait to move less, if it's sucked, the hook bait then also helps the hook to turn. That's my opinion anyway. This is 25-pound jelly wire. I'm going to be fishing in the silt tonight with this exact rig, so I wanted a bit more suppleness. If I was fishing over harder ground or fishing a longer cast or getting picked up by coots and tension crucians and things like that, then I'd use the 35-pound, just so I'd be a bit more confident that it kicked itself back away from the lead. So that is my my go-to. I've got 3 rods out, 2 of them will be on multi-rigs. one with a pink squid on tonight, because with a salty squid on, because it was quiet last night and I think they were looking. I think I got something wrong. And the other multi-rig will be with a little whittled down activate pop-up, a little less blatant. Okay, so the second setup is a bit different. Again, it's the extra heavy strategy sort of lead-free leader. I always use about the same length. I sort of take the biggest fish in the lake and add another half of the biggest fish, just so I make sure I'm well clear of its flank. And it's just how I work in my head. So that's the leader. The lead arrangement looks like a cog system, but it isn't. This is one of Strategy's lead systems, which we're going to start stocking at the lake, because after a bit of research, the fish safety properties for people that use inlines, I really like these, and the indication, especially when people are fishing up to snags. We've done a few tests and the indication for people is not great. This sort of eliminates that. Well, not eliminates it, but makes it a damn sight more effective. So talk about the rig first. I use an inline when I'm not casting. So if I was rowing a bait out onto a hard spot on one of the big publics, or like I'm going to do now, wade it out to put onto a washing line, I use an inline when it's rock hard. I just think from a hooking property, the shock impact of a heavy inline lead can't be beaten. So the rig is short, or short for me, probably 5.5 inches, and that's just a simple snowman, a washed out Coron Special, one of the new CS's, and a little white pop-up on there, and that won't sit with the hook off the bottom, that will sit with the hook flat and the pop-up just wafted. I don't want it too blatant, and that's just on a simple KD with a size 5 trapper. Nice big bit of putty underneath, just think it helps everything turn and pull down. Again, 25-pound sandy gravel jelly wire, because that's the bottom that we're fishing on, and a little silicone sleeve, one of the anti-tangle atomic sleeves. Now the difference in this lead setup is this. So your swivel is, as has been popularised in things like the cog system, is in the centre of the lead, which gives you obviously a far better shock effect. You're picking up all of the lead as opposed to just the nose of the lead. The unique part of it is when the fish shakes its head, put it on enough tension, the fish shakes its head like that, and the little swivel pops out the middle. Because of the way it's set up, and I'll show you this on the bank if you need to, what it does is it pulls, if you look at the leader part hanging down below, it pulls the leader and shortens the leader. And what that's basically doing is, one, allowing the lead to fly away, so they're not using the lead as a way of getting rid of the hook, but secondly, it's actually doubling the amount of line it's taken, which means that it's doubling your indication at the bite end, at the buzzer end. Really easy and simple to set up, more simple than I thought they were, and really easy and effective. Yeah, so that's the two setups that are going out tonight. One in the silt, or two in the silt, 2 helicopter rigs, and this one which will be on a washing line, which I'll show you in another little video blog, which is going into the far corner of swim 1. So not much gear needed, quite simple rigs but very strong. Hope that helps and gives you a little insight into what you need and probably what you don't need to bring over here to Lac Du Coron and other lakes in France. Cheers.